Hello everyone, this is PHTV Channel 4 in Palos Heights. I'm Sue Jankowski, and we are around Palos with our two guests this morning, who are Stephen Gray from Harvest Table Foods. Welcome, Stephen, today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
And Carrie Sirigus from Harvest Room Restaurant. Welcome, Carrie.
Thank you.
Now, both of these people you've probably seen around town. Stephen has been at our farmers market for the last months, and it will continue. I just want to remind everyone till October 16th, and then we have the farmers market periodically in the winter months, but we'll talk more about that later. And Carrie's restaurant, the Harvest Room, right on the corner of 127th and Harlem. Excuse me, I'm sure you've been to it. If you haven't, you need to get over there and get some of that delicious food, which is what we're going to talk about today. In fact, we're really talking about the farm-to-table kind of foods that Stephen provides and Carrie at her restaurant serves up, which is so important nowadays. People really looking for this type of thing, organic farming and so forth. So I think, first of all, I want to talk to Stephen about organic farming. We see organic farming in our organic products in the grocery store, and we're like, well, what does that exactly mean when you're farming organic? So Stephen, how did you get started with the organic farming, and what does it actually mean to farm that way?
Well, we first started going back to organic farming, which is actually a practice that all of my parents and grandparents did naturally years ago.
Okay.
So actually what we're doing is turning the page back to do things the way it was more holistic. And we got involved in doing it because we have 4 children that we brought back to the farm after being away for several years. I worked in different seed industries for 25 plus years. And we decided to come back to the farm, and when we came back, it was not as I grew up farming with my parents and with my grandparents, and we decided we wanted that experience for the kids, and so it's a complete turn back. It's when you do organic farming, there's no chemical, there's no artificial fertilizers, everything works in sync with one another. That's a big thing that most people don't realize, is when you do organic farming, it's not one small segment. You have to have a complete picture to make the organic farming successful.
And what you mean by that is, are you growing products that are kind of grow in harmony with each other, like help each other? What does that mean exactly, to be in sync?
Right, so that means it's everything from the soil to the crop to the livestock to the mechanisms that you use farming. So you do want to grow crops that follow a good rotation. Don't deplete the soils. You want to have livestock as a key important factor because they help enrich the soils. And it also allows for better rotation. We can rotation graze our livestock and free range our chickens and turkeys, and then in a few years we can turn that pasture into an organic setting for other crops and then rotate back. So it makes a very complete cycle for the microbes in the soil, the fertility, and it's just healthier all the way around for all the individual plants and the animals that are on the farm. So, did
you have to, I mean, you said you kind of turned back the clock because, of course, years ago, I assume, with your grandparents and your parents did more of this. But with this, did you have to really do some research and a little chemistry and get this all figured out? This sounds complicated.
I learn every day, and I'm very lucky that I have farmers in the community that have done this for a long time. And so I call on them quite a bit. It's a tight-knit community, the organic community. You can ask questions. There's not the real hard competition. Everybody is very busy. There's very few farmers out there organically that are looking to farm 10,000 acres organically. So they're reaching out to one another and helping people like myself. Even though I'm in my 50s, I'm a newcomer into this type of farming. So it gives you sort of that security of knowing that guys have gone through exactly what you're doing, and they've really helped me not make huge mistakes. There's always a learning curve, and
Sure.
there's always mistakes made,
Yes.
but it can be disastrous when it takes so long. It takes 3 years to become organic on a certain parcel of land. So if you make a really terrible mistake, you live with that for not just that year, but if you're not planting 2 years down the road, it has repercussions for your following crops.
Okay, so this would, it sounds much more complicated than maybe what we consider traditional farming at this point.
There's maybe fewer tools in the toolbox that a farmer can use organically. We can't simply call the co-op and say, I'd like you to come and spray my 200 acres because there's a few weeds coming.
Yeah, right.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
So so there's a little less things for us to fall back on that most of the farming community relies very heavily on. So I know when I first started doing this, a neighbor stopped me on the road and said, don't worry about what people are saying about you in town.
You're like, wait, they're saying stuff about me?
That's right. Because I was like, I'm so busy, I haven't even been to town, and so I don't know what people are saying about me. But it is, it's a different way, it's a whole lifestyle different than what conventional and traded farming is today. And there's usually like 3 different sectors of farming, and the middle can maybe become overlapped. There's usually organic farmers, there's conventional farmers, and then there's fully traded, full technology farmers. When I say that, that means that there's traits in the grain, there's GMOs that they use, so they can use different herbicides or affect different pests. And usually that far right, where they accept everything and want to use everything that's available, does not usually overlap with the organic farmer. But in between there's the conventional farming operation, which we still have some conventional farming operations. It's very difficult to take your whole farm organic at one time, financially and workload. So there's that migration from traded to conventional to organic, and the organic will overlap with the conventional as it's transitioning, and many people, just for financial reasons, overlap the conventional with the traded.
Okay.
It's very rare that you find someone who has a philosophy of organic that also farms fully traded.
Yeah, because that really is it's like an oxymoron with each other. It doesn't fit.
Correct.
Okay, so fully traded, you wouldn't do that, but you do the somewhat conventional and organic, just as it's too gigantic to do just the organic farming all at one time.
Yeah. So what we need to do is we need to grow it as our family becomes involved. As you go more organic, it's more hours in the tractor seat, it's more hours taking care of livestock. And so back when I grew up, I had 1 brother and 4 sisters. We all worked on the farm. We have 4 children that are going to come back from college. As they come back from college, they help me on the farm.
Oh, that's good.
So until they come back, it's a couple-man band here.
Yeah.
So you can't. It's very difficult to manage a whole organic farm with just a couple people.
I would think so. Okay, so now you decided to do the organic farming, and so and with the restaurant being like a partner with you with some of this, what makes the taste and texture different with organic farming? Here's a tomato one way, an apple the other way. I mean, what's the difference for people who are, besides the nourishment, I mean, the vitamins and so forth, lack of using herbicides and all of this, but what's about the texture and taste?
Well, most of the industry in the vegetables, as well as some of the livestock, have geared their selection and breeding to handling and transportation and shelf life. When we do things on our farm, it is for taste, quality, texture. We don't expect everything that we do to last as long on the shelf because we don't breed it for use selected varieties that can handle being transported in a semi, or harvested with a large harvester that brings in tomatoes and throws them in the back of a semi bed. Ours will be hand-picked because they're chosen for those tastes and qualities that people like to have, not for what grocery stores would like to have come in crates.
Okay, so when people are saying, remember when a tomato tasted this way, and now no tomatoes taste like that. But they do if it's farmed organically and you're buying that kind of product.
Correct. If you get some heirloom tomato plants and you grow them, if they tried to grow an heirloom tomato plant in the commercial setting that they have today, they wouldn't be happy with that. If anybody's seen a harvester that takes in tomatoes, they go up a big conveyor, they fly into the back of a truck, then they bring them into the distribution center where they put them in cardboard boxes and ship them out to grocery stores. Our older heirloom varieties would be destroyed by going through something like that.
So you'd have tomato sauce, right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
So it's the same thing with some of the livestock. We choose livestock that does best on an organic, grass-fed, grass-finished setting. For us, Black Angus works for us. Same thing with the turkeys and chickens. We choose the breed that works best on free range. It's not always about the most efficient. It's about what gives us the best end product.
Okay.
So,
Okay, so then the benefits, excuse me, seems like, I mean, it's a lot of work for you to do. And it's, I would think maybe your profit margin is more difficult to achieve because you're not able to produce the volume that some of the other kind of farms are doing.
Right.
So what is the benefit to you of doing things this way?
We still deal with the same financial issues that every farm has. But as we were preparing for this interview, my wife and I were putting together going through our albums, and it was really neat to see our kids since the year 2006 back at the farm, growing with the farm. And so it's not just the dollars and cents that makes it worthwhile for us. We really enjoy putting back in the pastures that were ripped out decades ago. We like bringing back livestock on the farm that had been gone since I was just a toddler. So it's more building back on where I'm a third generation on this farm, and I want my kids to be able to do the fourth generation and fifth generation. And the finances for us, if you find the right markets and you can actually manage, you can do well on smaller acreage and not have to farm the whole countryside in order to make your profits. And that's where we're focused on going. We still utilize very much the technology in tractors, things along those lines. But we just use them in a different way than applying with a sprayer and different things like that.
Do you find now that there's more, I mean, I'm looking at my little statistics here, and that there are 14,000 organic farmers now. Obviously that number is probably increasing, correct? Because I think there's more of a demand for people wanting, clean food, to put it that way. And do you find that to be true?
There is. There's an increase in organic. There's an increase in conventional. I think the distinction I like to keep my eye on is when the farming community recovers, and it usually does, it ebbs and flows. Prices of commodities will go back up eventually when our trade issues get settled and things like that. I'll be interested to see how many people maintain the organic situation, or if they will decide that if the prices go back up for their standard commodities, they'll move back into the standard production. I think there's a couple different breakouts out there. There's people that are dabbling with it to see if it works for them and if the finances work, and there are people that truly ethically believe this is what I want to do. Those people are very dependable. They will be year in, year out, take the good with the bad. Farmers are very well known for turning on a dime. This last year, especially with the weather that we had,
Yes.
everybody turned on a dime with what crops they were planting. Organic farmers don't always have that option. They follow a rotation, they follow a fertilizer plan, they follow what livestock they're putting out there. They don't have that luxury of saying, well, it rained a little bit, so I'm going to switch from my corn and go ahead and plant wheat this year. It messes up their entire system. So those people that are dedicated and stay with it, that'll be interesting to see in the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, it really will. And I mean, it was just so many elements that are dependent on your success with your crops that that's got to be a little stressful at times.
It can be, but also we have a lot more diversity. So where the risk comes in, we diversify that risk. So we run chickens and turkeys and sweet corn and all these other products, as well as corn and soybeans and hay. Where most of the farming in the Midwest is corn and soybeans. Highly reliant on trade, ethanol, all those things that are sort of out of our control and not direct to customers. We sort of lessen those risks because we still have product that can go into the main pipeline, but the majority of our effort comes back to the direct consumer.
Okay.
And so that gives us a little bit better
leeway
way to weather the storms.
Okay,
Yeah.
well that's good because we want people to be successful.
Yeah.
So now with the Harvest Room restaurant, you guys are kind of paired up because he's providing some of the items that you use at the restaurant. So I guess what I'd kind of like to know is, first of all, the concept that you had, because there's not particularly in this area, there are not a lot of restaurants that are farm-to-table type concepts. And then you have to pair up with somebody so you can get those products, you know, on a regular basis. What was your beginning? What started you on this process to have a restaurant that had the organic property to it?
My husband and I, we moved out to the suburbs from Chicago. And we had a lot of places to go out to eat, but when we moved out here, I think that the options were just very limited. And so we wanted to start something where we could get from scratch food for us. It was also for our children, which was really important, because when we'd go out to dine out with our kids, sometimes my children were young at the time, but sometimes I'd bring out, you know, some organic chicken and vegetables and stuff so they could eat it while we were out dining. And my husband and I also just wanted a place that we could go to that had great cocktails and a great atmosphere. So we started out the concept as that. We just wanted to do something where, and also we followed that. We use local farmers as well. So we did raw milk. We had our eggs local. We got our beef local, and we try to eat as organic as possible. The concept was just kind of in line with how we were living in general. Fully organic is another, it's very hard to do that, especially in this area. I mean, you know, our concept is really, while it is farm to table and we try to use the local farmers, there's so many benefits to using locally. I think the other thing is that we're just, you know, the concept is grass fed. It's free range. It's, you know, wild caught seafood. And really more than that, it's from scratch. I think we were talking before about how your grandparents used to do it. And I think that's like really our concept, as I call it, back to basics. It's really just going back to where it was. You know, we don't have to have preservatives because we make our sausage weekly, you know, a couple times a week. We have fresh sausage. Our chicken, our soups are all made from scratch because we actually use chicken bones and we actually make the stock from scratch. And I think all of that builds into, you know, the actual concept of what we have. So it's the from scratch, that's a very big part of it, but it's also being able to use the quality foods. And like for the organic part, we do have a good amount of organic options, especially for our children. We created a wild child menu. So we wanted to make sure that everything on there was either organic, local, and if not, then it actually says if it's not organic.
So you can have that choice when you get there.
Exactly. So the parents know it's about knowledge and being transparent too with what our customers are, you know, consuming.
Well, it seems like the restaurant's been very successful. You've been here in town for how long now?
Going on 7 years.
So quite a long time. I've been there many times. It's always crowded with people. I hear people coming from distances because there isn't that opportunity to get like this fresh made food,
Right.
You know, that you can not very easily find.
Right, there isn't, not within a pretty big radius, and we just opened our second location in Munster, Indiana too. So even from where we're at, I think what we hear a lot is that it's a really great meeting point. So we have people that come all the way from, you know, down south from Wilmington, from New Lenox, all the way up north from LaGrange to come all the way down, you know, because really what they see is that what we hear a lot is that it's like a Chicago type restaurant, but it's in Palos Heights. And then we get a lot of people coming as a equal meeting point. So some are coming from Chicago because their parents are out here. It's their favorite place to eat. So yeah, so we do get a lot of diners that come in, customers that come through that come from all over.
I know that's true because I do know that people do that. So when you're trying to design your menu, first of all, how do you come up with, because you have some different items there that you don't get in every restaurant. So you have some different menu choices that makes it kind of interesting and fun. But how do you come up with these recipes and what makes you decide on those?
So sometimes it's my husband and I, we love food, we enjoy it, and we just want to make sure that whatever's on there is something that we're going to enjoy. So we come up with a lot. It's a lot of fun. We get to go and you know, go out and do a little research and development, and then come up with some items. We also have a chef too that comes up with items, and then sometimes it's straight on seasonal. You know, from our farmer, from our produce farmer, we use Ruth Zeldin Rust. So every year she just has, you know, bushels and bushels of zucchini she tries to give us, and we don't use zucchini often. So this year was my challenge to use zucchini. So we created a zucchini fritter like appetizer, and then zucchini fritter Benedict, and it's selling like hotcakes.
Oh,
Hot zucchini cakes.
well, that sounds good. So really, the menu is kind of evolves based on what kind of produce and what you can get seasonally.
So we change it usually one for kind of the spring and summer. Maybe we make a little change after spring to get like asparagus and peas off and move into some other things. And then we usually have our winter menu, which is kind of standard, where we use our dry goods, our beans and polenta, and our nice hearty type of pot roast and lamb shanks. But in the summer, so we really try to use what we have seasonally. We put it in there just to make sure that it's always fresh, number one, and changing as well. So we try, there's always a handful of items that we leave in there that will always be out of rotation. So we'll always have a new Benedict. We'll always have a new chicken sandwich. We'll always have a new omelet, so people can come and kind of get the popular items, but then get something new when they come too.
Okay, well that's good, because that makes a restaurant, people that frequent a restaurant often, it makes them happy to have some other choices. So with changing up the menu like that, you probably have to have more than one source of materials available, produce available, or meats or whatever. Is that difficult to get that? I realize not everything can be organic, but is it difficult to keep finding what you want, or is there enough now available locally that you can get these products?
It's still very tough, especially for our concept being in the location that we're at. We're breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So we're not located in Chicago. We're located in Palos Heights. For our eggs, we pay 4 times the amount for our eggs than any other breakfast restaurant does. But we don't get to charge 4 times the amount, kind of going back to that very slim profit margin. So we do try to find different vendors that we use. We have, like our egg farmer is Raymond Yoder. He's an Amish gentleman from Iowa. We use our beef from Strauss Farms, that's in Wisconsin. So we kind of pick and choose. We can start doing different chicken. When we bring it in, it's kind of picking and choosing. It is hard because sometimes we do have to fit in a certain price point that we have to be able to put it in so we can keep the doors open. But with more people coming out, to be honest, there's more farmers coming out that are following either a organically grown concept or certified organic concept, and with that it gives us a little bit better options for pricing, and we can use one vendor for this and one vendor for this. So, and it's come a very long way since 7 years ago when you first opened. I remember talking to our big vendors like, well, we need to get this, and this, and why don't we have it, to now we have a lot more options, and it's much easier for us to source the quality ingredients than it was before.
Are your customers, both with the products that you provide, the restaurant, are they aware that this is going to be a little bit higher priced items? Because when you look at the organic in the grocery store, sometimes you're like, do I need the organic avocado? I don't know. Maybe I can get the regular one. So, because you do have to kind of weigh. It is a little pricey.
Because it is price point. That's
and
what it comes down
I understand why, and everyone understands why. But is that then kind of a problem? We have to kind of fine tune all of that a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. For us, I feel like there's a certain percentage of customers that come in specifically because we offer grass-fed, grass-finished, free-range egg from scratch, and then we have a good amount that come in just because the food's great and it's creative.
Right.
And then, like you said, obviously, when you're going to buy organic chicken, you already know the quality, especially when you're buying straight from the farmer. Not only, and even not just chicken or meat, even produce. It's going to be fresh. When we're talking about those tomatoes, you can get the orange tomatoes from the store that say they're beefsteak on the vine and they're still orange, or you can get it from the farmer's market where it's red. It has flavor. It's right because we're picking it here. We don't have to travel, 1,000 miles to bring it to you. And then, so turning that into
the product that you sell at the restaurant, turning it into something that you can, make. I don't don't want to say a profit on, but you have to keep your doors open. So you want to make
Right.
sure that you make restaurant food that people like and you can sell.
Yeah. And so again, going back to it, there's a certain amount of people that come for the concept. There's a certain amount that come in for that, and it is kind of hard for us to be able to, as well as any farmer, to be able to say, like, we have to put it here at this price point, and hopefully we're making enough money to keep the
do
doors
that.
open.
Well, I think people are so much more health conscious now than they used to be. What goes in is important, and how many nutrients are in it. Plus, their children. I think people are so concerned about the nutrients that their children get, more so than years by. So as this new generation of people come up, I feel they're a little bit more particular about what they're going to be eating, a lot of them, which is good. They
And
need to
it's
be.
not just nutrients, it's also the lack of what you're getting when you're eating organic. It's what you're not taking in. It's the different
Yes.
types of pesticides. It's the different types of toxins that you're taking when you're eating a more local, natural, organically grown, organically certified product. And when you were talking about going to the store, do I get the organic avocado or not? I think there's this really great there's this really great information out there that we can use. It's called the Clean 15 and their Dirty Dozen. And that's the Dirty Dozen is the 12 top fruits and vegetables that you should get organically. You should always get these organically. Unfortunately, they're the ones that we all love as Americans. There are strawberries, our apples, our blueberries, our carrots, and then there's the Clean 15. And those are ones that if you are on, you do want to save money, you can't afford to go 100% organic, then those are the ones that you go and get the, sweet potatoes, the cauliflower, the onions, the melon, the pineapple. Those are the ones you can get that don't have to be organic. And then that way you save a little bit because you you really should be eating organic or organically raised meat. It's a healthier animal. And there's so much more into that we probably can't go into right now, but you really are what you eat when it comes down to it.
Well, and I know my mother used to always say, chicken doesn't taste like chicken anymore. It used to taste like chicken, and now it doesn't. And I think that was the reason, because it's just this mass-produced chicken that doesn't have the free range or whatever you're doing to make it something that tastes good.
And there's different levels. I mean, I could say it's organically raised, but that doesn't mean that it's free range. I could put my chickens in a cage and feed them only organic feed, but then they'll develop respiratory issues, leg issues, higher death rate.
No sun, no exercise.
That's
Not
right.
good.
And all those build muscle, all those build texture. So all those things, it's very important, I think, for people to know as much as they can where the food is coming from, not just the label, but where it's coming from. It's because all the practices can vary across a broad spectrum of the organic, the conventional, and even the traded farming practices being used. But especially for the vegetables and the meats that are directly consumed, if I could encourage people to find out where they're coming from, research what farms those things are coming from in their grocery stores. Because all things are not created equal, even with the same stamp and label that they have on them.
Okay, so find out where are these products coming from, and then do
Right.
your homework. And that's
Do
so
homework.
easy nowadays with computers and stuff. I mean, you can find out stuff pretty easily.
Right, and they show people are U.S. citizens throw away 30% of everything they purchase in food.
Yeah.
So moderate your purchases as volume and focus on quality. Plan your meals. Everybody's gotten to the point where they want instant and they want it readily available. My kids are no different. They open the refrigerator door and said, "There's nothing to eat." There is something to eat. It just takes time to prepare it.
Right.
So
This is true.
yes. So if they focus on that more than the price of paying for an organic apple versus the non-organic, and say, well, maybe I don't need to buy a dozen apples because they will go bad in a shorter period of time. Maybe I'll buy 6 today, and I can come back to the grocery store later and buy another 6 if I like them. It also gives them a chance to sample different products that they may not have wanted to sample before. They're organic. They can buy a few, sample them in recipes. If they have something at the restaurant that they really liked, they can find out, what did you use in that? Maybe I can use something like that as an everyday type of thing. So there's a lot of different advantages and opportunities for people than just what they have presented in a limited option at different supermarkets that they go to. They just have to search.
Well, and it used to be in the olden days where people went shopping every 2 or 3 days.
Right,
They didn't
exactly.
load up for 2 weeks.
Your refrigerator wasn't that big.
No.
Yeah.
You know,
So they
we had a
would,
refrigerator for milk and meat.
right, exactly. So you used what
Right.
you had, pardon me, and you didn't do what you're saying. So you can get those fresh products and use them and then go get more fresh products. Yeah.
Or you think of it alternatively. You have 6 apples that are mushy. We're going to make applesauce.
Yeah.
Right.
I have all these vegetables that are about to go. Let's make some chili.
Yeah,
Yep.
there you go. I want to talk a little bit too. Not only does your restaurant have great food, but you've got this nice little bar to the side there, and you mentioned craft cocktails. And so it's a restaurant where you can go and get a glass of wine, and you've got some nice wine choices there. Do your cocktails change seasonally?
Yes. So the cocktails it's another big part of I think the concept of Harvest Room, the heart of Harvest Room, because what we really do with our cocktails is, well, I have I have a tea program there. It's called Two Sisters Brews. And so we do all organic herbs, and I think we blend maybe about 15 or 16 different teas in-house, all of them with different herbs like dandelion and valerian and milk thistle. So we have lots of different like herbal tisanes for that. So with those herbs, I bring them into the bar. So I think probably 90% of our cocktails have some type of herb or tea into the infusion. And so we do all the syrups from scratch, like a lemon verbena simple syrup, a hibiscus rosehip simple syrup. And so I do change it seasonally too. Right now we're using kombucha, so I'm not sure if either of you have had kombucha. So we're doing kombucha cocktails.
I've seen the word. I don't think I've ever had it.
It's another beneficial type of drink. It's a fermented tea, and it has lots of probiotics in it. So we do that into a cocktail. We do mocktails. We actually add CBD oils to some mocktails if you like that as well. And so going into the winter season, we'll do a lot of different infusions. Like I'm working on a pear spice chai rosemary vodka now to do with like a Moscow Mule type. And then we'll go into like pear whiskey sour. So we do a lot of infusions ourselves instead of just buying like flavored alcohols. But again, it's from scratch, so you feel good about what you're drinking. It's not, a lot of what we have, actually almost everything of what we have, there's no preservatives in it because we don't have to add it because we make everything so often, we make everything so fresh. So that's the benefit. So even from eating to cocktails.
It's all there. So, I mean, really the lesson here is too that you really can, find out what they're doing at the Harvest Room, but then purchase that organic product, spend some time cooking. Actually, cooking is pretty fun, and you don't have to make it complicated, but if you have really good products, that end piece that you're going to serve yourself or your family is more delicious than, if you just went to the local whatever and got that pre-done food. You should be doing some things yourself, and it really doesn't take that much time. I guess we're all running around, we're so busy, doing this or that, but are we? I don't know. Some of the things you're thinking, well, you take a little bit more time and you have a nice dinner or whatever for your family, for your children. I think people worry about their children and how they're, how they're growing and what they're doing, so I think that's a nice thing too. Now, Stephen, you are going to be, we mentioned the farmers market that is during the winter months too. It's at the rec center. You'll see the dates up around town if you don't know what they are right now, and we'll try and post them somewhere along the line. But Stephen will be there, but it won't be the usual products at that time of year because it's winter time. What would you likely have?
So we're hoping to have our grass-fed beef there. We'll have turkeys that come into the holiday season. We'll still have our chicken. And then we also have sign-ups for CSAs. So those are community-supported agriculture. We allow so many openings so that through the winter months of people, when we're not up here in Palos, they're still interested in having chicken or a turkey or some beef, they can join the CSA and we will ship product to them.
That's great.
And then when we get back into the spring, we'll start up our produce again. We are starting a greenhouse, so we're hoping we can start earlier with some of our early seedlings. We grow almost all of our plants from seed ourselves, so then we transplant them. So we'll be starting that earlier, so maybe we can have a better spring and have product available.
Oh, yes, we'll hope so,
yeah,
for everybody's sake.
Right, so that's what we'll have. We'll have mainly sign-ups and also the meats that are available. And we can ship anywhere. So that hopefully will make it convenient for people that once they get used to what we have, they can still have access to it year-round.
Okay, and we'll put your contact information up on the screen so that if you don't get to the farmers market but you're interested in getting some products, I don't know if they just call you or do you have like a website?
We have a website,
Okay.
harvesttablefoods.net.
Okay.
And so they can go there, and there's a form that we're actually in the process of updating our website. So the website will have a CSA form in the coming weeks, and they'll also have an a la carte where they can order specific things. If they're going to have a family function and they want a turkey instead of a chicken and whatever, they can say, I would like to have a turkey instead.
Okay.
We only do turkeys once a year.
Okay.
So it is
Close to Thanksgiving.
close to Thanksgiving into Christmas, and that's
Okay,
our
it.
deal.
Okay,
Yeah.
and does that come to people frozen or fresh?
Frozen.
It comes frozen.
Yes, the state of Illinois doesn't allow me to transport fresh. So we have all of our poultry processed by the Amish in Arthur, and they freeze it before we pick it up. We bring it back frozen, we put it in our freezers, and we deliver frozen.
Okay.
So
Well, that's
yeah.
good. That sounds safer,
Yes.
because who knows, with that transportation. That's great. And Carrie, with the restaurant, I'm sure, like fall season brings a great menu change. I mean, we're looking at tons of.
Yeah, we're just, my husband and I are just talking about that now. We're definitely moving into the heartier meats for sure. Pork, I think we have some pork shank coming on that we've been selling for the past couple weeks. That's been very popular. Thanksgiving's coming up, and we have our annual senior citizens eat free for Thanksgiving.
Oh, that's nice.
So yeah, so that's on Thanksgiving Day, and so it gets pretty busy. But I also want to touch base really quick on the CSA, because I think the CSAs are really fantastic for people. A lot of people are trying to get healthier, and sometimes you can go to the store, you go shopping once a week, and you kind of get the same stuff that you're used to. But joining a CSA, it kind of forces you into some type of creativity. Like all of a sudden, I have these, I don't know, shanks. What am I going to do with these? Like, let's figure out how to make it. Or I have all these this meat, but I have all these great bones. I've heard of this thing called bone broth. Let's try it out. I think the CSA is just very important, and and I'm not sure how often your CSA is, but it's a really great way for families that want to try to start getting more natural to join.
And a CSA stands for?
It's community supported agriculture.
Okay, community supported agriculture. So I didn't know what that was. Now you know what it is, and that is
membership.
That you belong to it, and then you're obligated to get a certain amount of whatever.
Right, you pay monthly.
Pay monthly,
Ours is
okay.
set, we're working on it now that we're going to ship out 2 different sizes. So there's family size and individual size.
That's smart.
So that way, and I think it's important. I never thought my boys would be such cooks, but it is a good opportunity for people to learn how to do something more than macaroni and cheese. So they appreciate when mom cooks at home, and then all of a sudden when they're off to college, it's pizza, and that gets old real fast.
It really does.
So
yeah.
it's a good opportunity for a family to actually go in the kitchen together and actually start making meals. Then I think there's a greater appreciation. When you go out to a restaurant, there is a much better appreciation for what is on your plate when you've actually had to make a meal at home.
Absolutely.
So it's, and I think it's just a really good family building, and it's a very good lesson learned on how to actually cook for yourself.
Well, actually, and it's so fun to be in the kitchen together. I mean, I found out the best information about my kids cooking, because they're just chopping carrots and telling you all sorts of things that
Right.
Yes.
you do and don't want to know. But it's a great thing to do, and there's so many things that are advertised on TV now where they like bring your food and then you make it. But you could join the CSA, and do the same thing, but it's not a commercial kind of product. It's going to be great food,
Absolutely.
and it's the same concept where you're cooking. You're doing the cooking, and I think sometimes people forget that it is actually fun to cook, and you get a great meal out of it.
That's
so
right.
It's
And
great.
with the holiday season, you can gift a CSA for a whole season. So
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Well,
that's very good.
I encourage you to look into that. And I encourage you to look for Stephen over at the Farmers Market and get a hold of him if you have, an interest in getting some of these products shipped to you. And of course, the restaurant, the Harvest Room Restaurant on the corner of 127th and Harlem. I know you've driven by it. I drive by it like probably 100 times a day. And so it's right there on the corner. You can stop by and get a great meal, breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And also you can get a nice, great, interesting cup of tea. I think that's really fun too, where you just want something different, and this would be different, or a cocktail in the evening or whatever. So thank you both, Stephen. Thank you, Carrie, for being here today. I really appreciate it. I hope that you've learned a little bit more about organics, organic farming, and things that are just really great for you. And we'll see you next time around Payless. Thanks for watching us today. Bye-bye.